Welcome to the Deconstructing Data podcast and broadcast. I'm Jessie Lezak, fractional CMO at BDEX, along with BDEX's founder and CEO, David Finkelstein. Good to see you, David. What's new in the BDEX world?
Hey, Jesse, good to see you as well. Just busy trying to continue to build out product and release new features. So that's been sort of the core focus with the team over the past couple of weeks. And we'll have some new releases to talk about soon, hopefully.
Nice. Awesome. Well, looking forward to hearing how it's going to help a lot of our customers with all of their different projects that they're working on, especially with targeting their audiences.
Yeah.
And saving them money at the end of the day. But today on Deconstructing Data, we're thrilled to welcome DJ Kim. He is a multi-passionate entrepreneur, and he's the founder of Cherry Assistant. He's not just the founder of Cherry Assistant, he's been the founder of multiple businesses, which we'll get into today. But welcome to the show, DJ.
Hey, Jesse. Hey, David. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, DJ. We're glad to have you on the show, and we're going to give you a chance to sort of kick it off. And for our listeners, if you could give them a little bit of background or your history, love to understand the story about your self-proclaimed multi-passionate entrepreneurship and how you became founder of Cherry Assistant as well. So why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, definitely. I think, so my first kind of like entry into startups and just being an entrepreneur was actually freshman year of college. I raised seed money from some angel investors to do a startup that I guess as a freshman in college in hindsight was probably expected, but crashed and burned. And I think through that was really just kind of like where I realized like, this is kind of what I want to do for full time. But that experience led me to kind of believe like I probably don't know what I'm doing, and I should go learn from people that know what they're doing and have done, successful businesses and learn from them first. So after college, I worked at Minerva Analytics, which is a startup incubator that came out of Coco Labs in Cambridge. And that's really where I learned, pretty much everything that I still use day to day now. Everything from product analytics, product development, just how to actually take data, to analyze it, draw insights to, really create like a powerful business and something that people love. So I worked there for about 2 years, first as a data analyst and then a product manager. And then I joined Jared at RevGenius and helped him create what is now, a pretty successful community and community business. And then from there, I kind of just got into this whole, other world of B2B sales and marketing. And that I think is like the big entry point for me where, I kind of had the, I would say like ability and kind of knowledge from there to expand into, let's say like blockchain development and some of these other businesses that were really new and take what I learned before and create, I guess, what Jesse has called multi-passionate entrepreneur, where I was able to create these businesses in, Web3 and crypto and B2B, SaaS, and, Cherry Assistant as well in the recruiting business.
Yeah.
I love the story. I was born an entrepreneur as well. Started in college as well. And, literally, selling trips to, literally in college, I was selling spring break trips and things like that, like anything I could get my hands on, So yeah, I was literally born an entrepreneur. My father was an entrepreneur. So it's just in my blood, and it's the only thing I've ever known. And the short stint that I had working for someone else just didn't work. Like I had to be doing my own thing. So I totally get it. Love the passion that you have. And why don't you tell us a little bit more, and we can jump right into the sort of first topic. You had a company called DataGhost that you built and had a successful exit on that. Tell us a little bit about that business and how you built it, how what DataGhost did, and how did you end up selling it?
Yeah, so DataGhost was actually my first software that I built with my partner Ben Decky. So after leaving RevGenius, I was trying to figure out what software to make. I think I've always just wanted to make software. I've been mostly just a kind of a growth marketer, e-commerce, B2C type of person up until that point. And while I was working on RevGenius, I think just kind of the most common gap or problem that we face, and a lot of people in the community face, was an issue of like data. It's like, how do I get data that's, you know, good, reliable, but also affordable? And just based off of, you know, my understanding of creating a company like DataGhost, which was a, you know, like contact or data enrichment tool, it just seemed it was possible to make something that was, you know, kind of like the trifecta of, you know, is it good quality? Is it reliable? Is it fast? But is it also affordable for anyone to just come in and use? So over the course of, I think, 4 months, we built a tool, created a beta group, and we actually had a lot of help from Jesse in promoting it through Whiskey Wednesday, got a lot of our initial users. And then as we're building it up, Jesse Ouellette from Lead Magic approached us and was like, hey, do you do you want to sell DataGhost to me? I think Jesse was also actually an advisor at first of DataGhost, just kind of helping us build out the product and stuff. And I think he saw the potential in what we're building.
Very cool. Love the story. You know, I'm always excited by entrepreneur stories and how companies get started and how they transition. So that's awesome.
Yeah, you two seem to have a lot in common, and hopefully you're not hearing all the lawn mowers and stuff outside my window, because it seems to just keep getting louder.
No,
But yeah,
I don't hear it. I did have a question for you, DJ, about, you know, you talked about data quality, reliability. You know, that's always been a big focus for us at BDEX as well. There's always a challenge there when you know, when you're dealing with data. How do you determine the quality? How do you measure it? You know, how do you test it? I'd love to, you know, if you can share anything that you can around your process in measuring the quality of the data with that you had at DataGhost.
Yeah, I think the two biggest factors for us, and ours was mostly just around emails, up until the point we got acquired. And I think with emails, it's two factors. Is one is time, like how relevant and how recently did you get the data? So if it wasn't within the last 30 days, we automatically didn't consider it, you know, I would say valid data. I think 30 days is a lot of time in like the email world and data world. So that was the first thing, is like making sure that the email, you know, is like validated within the last 30 days. And then just adding a lot of components into just the like reliability side of like, is this email, you know, like valid? So like checking, like we did a lot of like data pings and custom code around just like making sure that the email would actually receive emails, if it wasn't going to be like a blocked email. So those are two main factors that we did at DataGhost. I think there was a lot more that we could have done. But by that point, you know, we had some offers from Jesse and some other people about acquiring DataGhost. And yeah, I think there's some other factors that we probably could have added in there.
very cool.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't just DataGhost that you had, it was also Spuddy's. So DataGhost was 2023, the end of 2023. And I never really heard of Spuddy's too much, because I know we've been talking a lot about DJ, you working on the B2B side, and you had B2B emails with DataGhost, but you also did some B2C work in terms of the e-commerce work you were doing with selling, as you were talking about pre-show, these collars that calm cats.
Yeah. So after my startup in college, actually, I wanted to create something that didn't really require like venture capital. And at the time, I think e-commerce was kind of like a, you know, there was a lot of people who were like advertising it as like, oh, you can spin this up really quickly for really cheaply, yada, yada. So in college, I started a college apparel brand called Dirty Mouth Apparel, which was a play on the word Dartmouth, which is where I went to. And that did pretty well. And then from there, I just kind of figured, you know, if I can make an apparel brand, I can probably make some other e-commerce brands. And Spuddy's was one of the brands that I created during COVID. And because it was a subscription business, once we got customers, the churn was really, really low. I think the churn was like less than 5%. So we ran ads for a while. We ran kind of this like the basic e-commerce marketing playbook. And for the last 4 years, it's been pretty much on autopilot, just running. And I just decided, you know, I'm kind of focusing on software, on data, on B2B companies, and just kind of wanted to get off my hands. So I went to acquire.com, which is an amazing broker for businesses, and sold it within about 8 months of being listed there, I believe.
Not bad at all.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's a different world.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's great. You have experience in the B2B and the B2C world, so that's pretty cool. Before we went live, we were talking about. Well, I'm going to tie this into what we were talking about. So my question to you is like, where do you see the big opportunities going forward? And I think that we talked a little bit earlier about ChatGPT and AI. Everybody's talking about AI these days, but the reality is, like, especially when it comes to software, there's a lot of opportunities out there, right? I mean, where do you see this going? Like, is everything going to be an AI-driven platform going forward? And if so, I think that it's going to create a lot of interesting opportunities for people, right?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, at least that I've noticed, and this might just because I'm coming from a lot of B2C experience, but I think with the evolution of AI and all of these tools, the kind of trend I'm seeing is that it's I don't think there's going to be like a big segmentation between a B2B company and a B2C company. I think what AI really allows you to do is treat every company as a B2C company. Because if you have enough data and you have the ability to take that data and instantly draw insights, the friction of drawing insights of like a B2C company or a B2B company was a lot bigger, where AI wasn't a thing, where like you had to have large teams actually do it, like a lot of analysis or whatever. But now with AI, you can get the same amount of insights as you could with a B2C company. So I think we're going to see a lot more B2C playbooks in the B2B world. And I think that's already happening, where you're kind of like merging, let's say, like marketing and sales teams or the tech stack into like one component. And I think that's just kind of the start of like having a lot of the B2C playbooks coming into B2B. And that's, I think, kind of like a big push with the AI tools.
It's such a good point, Jesse. We've talked about this, right? I mean,
Mhm.
what can B2B marketing learn from B2C, right?
Right.
Because B2C has always been very it's I don't want to say it's easier, but it's a lot more focused. You can reach people,
Mhm.
and the challenge in B2B was always the fact that you're trying to reach a business, but you don't know who the person is inside the business that you're trying to reach. And it takes a lot of work to find that person, just like you were just saying, DJ. But ultimately, what you're suggesting is that AI is going to make it more like B2C, in the sense that we'll be able to pinpoint who those people are. So you're selling
Yeah.
to that person. You're not necessarily trying to just sell to a company.
Yeah, exactly. That's a more eloquent way of saying, but
No, yeah, I'm just,
yeah,
in some ways, I'm just repeating
yeah,
what you said, but at the same time, I'm just trying to sort of, I don't know. I think it's
yeah.
interesting
Even
to
the
think
playing
of
field
it.
for everyone.
Yeah, and look at it from different points of view. And the reality is, it's like that's always been the challenge in the B2B world. It's like,
Yep.
trying to
Definitely.
figure out who inside the company you're trying to reach, or
Yeah.
who's the right person. And sometimes it's not a person, right? It's a there's a group of people that are involved in that decision making, and you need to be able to touch all of them. I think you're really, you hit on a really good point, and I think that AI has the opportunity to make that a lot easier.
Absolutely. And let's hope that we see B2B getting a little more creative with their designs and becoming a little closer to B2C that way. But also, with data, I think it just becomes more important. And I think we're going to be seeing marketing more and more becoming more important on both B2C and B2B, because shoppers are inevitably online. They're, looking for referrals, they're looking for reviews. And so I don't know. I think data is going to be driving both B2C and B2B. So it's going to be coming down to creativity and what we say. But I don't know. What do you think?
No, yeah, I think that's exactly right. So one example, and I'm bringing this up because we're actually running this right now. Like when I was doing e-commerce, we would run a lot of like paid ads, and I would think that would normally just be considered marketing. But now we're doing paid ads for a home cleaning business that we run in Phoenix. I know it's kind of random that I run a home cleaning business, but we have a bunch of that we run. We have a home cleaning business in Phoenix, and I think normally you would run paid ads as kind of just like the marketing side, and then you'd have a different sales arm. But now we can run Facebook ads that go directly to Facebook Messenger. We have an intake form, and then from there we have a GPT bot just take over and actually just run it. So we can basically run a sales process in the same way a B2C company run a marketing process.
Mm,
So I think these types of playbooks is really what's going to help people scale and even the playing field.
So quality data and really first party quality data is going to become key.
Yeah.
But we do still see a lot of businesses relying on third party data in many ways.
Yep, yep, and cookies and third party cookies, and it's with the deprecation just getting pushed and pushed and pushed, people are like, I'm just going to keep using it until it goes away, right?
Right.
So, might
Yeah.
as well, right?
They keep threatening to take it away. If Google would have, deprecated cookies back when they originally said they would have, DJ, how would that have impacted your e-commerce businesses?
I think it would have been harder, but I think also at the same time there was a lot of different other like acquisition channels coming up, right? Like with TikTok, I think that also actually made e-commerce business a lot easier in a way where instead of going after for data, you are now going after the algorithm. So I think there's always going to be, whether it's data or an algorithm, there's going to be some sort of edge where like you can kind of like optimize your marketing or sales workflow towards. And I think if they take away cookies, like there's going to be an algorithm they're going to have to favor to. If they, take away an algorithm, there's probably some other thing that replaces it. Maybe it's like I don't know, some AI, the overseeing AI that just controls all of search or something that you're going to have to favor to.
Yeah.
Some sort of way that you can kind of gain an edge on it.
Yeah, that's another conversation we had about Google and AI and how, AI and search are kind of merging together. So the search algorithms are going to turn into, AI algorithms that you're basically trying to thwart and figure out how to get around in order to improve SEO and things like that through AI. It's going to be really interesting how that evolves as well.
Yes. And as AI takes over, no doubt there's going to be a more need for data because we need data to fuel the AI. So speaking of data, DJ, our third topic we want to hear, I mean, unless you have anything else you want to share about your e-commerce business Spuddies, because we didn't really hear the full story actually. So before we get into your best data tips, maybe we should better wrap up hearing about Spuddies.
Oh yeah. So that was again, it's just a subscription business selling pheromone cat collars. The collars have like the pheromones of the cats with essential oils, basically, and that calms the cat down when they're wearing it. It's for like cats that are like anxious and like preventing them from scratching furniture. And that business, like I said, ran for about 4 years, and then we brokered it through Acquire.com through a private seller that we kind of like help kind of just console on the side and just make sure that they're at least able to maintain and grow it steadily month over month. And that was like kind of one of our last e-commerce businesses from the COVID era that we did. Now we have some Amazon brands that are just kind of running in the background.
So cool. Well, congratulations on both your recent acquisitions. And with that, you've had all this success. So 23, 24, it's becoming the world of AI and data. What are your best data tips for fast growth to finish 2024? And, the audience would say primarily mostly B2C marketers, but, you have this expertise in B2B and there's a lot of overlap too. But for both realms, what would be your best data tips?
I would say for both realms, using like automated workflows like Make.com or Zapier is probably the highest leverage way to use data for most people and most businesses, and especially in like the cheapest fashion, right? Like with Make.com and Zapier, you can pretty much integrate a way to analyze data and draw insights like almost instantaneously, right? With GPT for anything that you're doing, right? Like I said, the example that I gave of using GPT integrated into Facebook Messenger for leads, for example, like I think people wouldn't necessarily consider that data traditionally, but I think when you're able to draw insights from it and analyze it, I think that at that point it becomes insightful data. And I would say, I don't think I have, let's say, data tips, but I would say this is probably a good tip for making data work for you and turning it into insights for your business.
Making it actionable. So while we were talking, we did get a question from the audience. So AP was asking, how ought businesses think about AI in terms of customer, employees, and management?
Yeah, I would say, just kind of referencing what I said for the best data tips. Just, I don't think AI is going to replace employees in businesses. I don't, at least not for the foreseeable future. If it does, I think we'll have bigger problems to worry about than, data tips for finishing 2024. But for like powering workflows and productivity is where we'll see the biggest increases. So for businesses to, either cut costs or scale their existing labor, that's where a lot of it will come in. So like customer support, for example, like you can probably have AI be the first line of defense for customer support and pass it on and escalate it to, an actual employee. I think there's like things like that that could increase productivity, but I don't know if we'll see, exponential human replacement type of AI for a while.
So
Yeah, I agree. I think that improving workflows and processes are number one for sure, and that can be across, a lot of different disciplines. Improving workflows and processes in marketing and sales, in management, in customer service. Everything. There's a lot of different in financial. There's a lot of different areas and disciplines within a business that you can use AI today to improve these processes, and anything that essentially you do is ultimately saving time. And maybe it's not replacing employees, but it's giving back those employees time to do other things, and maybe those things are to be more creative, things that AI can't necessarily do, and enable innovation and things like that. So I think that indirectly, the hope is that companies will become more innovative because they have more time because of AI.
Yeah.
More innovative, hopefully more creative. And AP wanted to clarify, it looks like customers have a POV on AI, so do employees, so do management, so do shareholders, to add some context to what he was asking earlier. So yeah, I think we're all on the same page there with all of that. But any last data tips, DJ, or even David, like for 2024, anyone watching, this is May, we're about to hit June, which is the halfway mark, 2024, we're 6 months in almost. What do we need to do to stay fresh?
The one thing I'll add is I'm going to play further on what DJ said earlier about data quality and reliability being important. I think that's important in any business. And I think that's one place, and sticking to the topic of AI and improving workflows and processes, I think that's one place where AI can be really super helpful in helping identify data issues and improve data quality. Because I think in any situation where you're improving data quality, whether it be in marketing or sales or customer service, and whatever it is, you are going to improve the business, right? And so I think it's really important to focus on that. I think companies are trying to find ways to turn AI into profitability, right? And so if you want to turn AI into profitability, use it to improve your business as a whole, and that can mean many different things for many different businesses. But if you're improving the business as a whole, you're going to improve the profitability.
Absolutely. Yep. I couldn't agree more. What about you, DJ? Do you think of anything else?
No, I think just the kind of like last tip would be simplifying like the kind of like data tech stack. I think now that there's so many tools, I think people have a tendency to like try out all these different tools and add them on. But I actually think now, just because of how good AI is and some of these other tools, like you have the power to consolidate your tech stack into a lot simpler workflows and have less do more. Like you can have for example, like we use make.com and GPT to pretty much replace, dozens of tools that we could have had. And I think just because of how good AI is getting, like the productivity and saving time is one thing, but you can also just save a lot of your kind of time managing a tech stack or your RevOps or whatever, just because of how good some of these isolated tools are getting.
That's a great point.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Technology is just getting better and better and better, which is why quality data is going to become more and more important. But on that, and speaking of tech stack, so you've mentioned Make, and you've mentioned, let's see, what was the other one? Make, ChatGPT.
GPT, Claude has been actually, so it's funny because I think ChatGPT will be really good for a while, and then Anthropic's Claude will be really good for a while, and they kind of like have a little pendulum going on. Use both pretty frequently. And Webflow we use for all of our websites. Use Go High Level for our funnels, CRM, some automations that we do for our voicemail sequences, and Google Analytics for most of our pixels. We used to use PostHog, which is like an open source version of Google Analytics and analytics tools. That's pretty much it for the most part. We've really simplified just because of how good, the combination of like Make.com and GPT is, and their integrations is amazing.
Yeah, it's true. So if you had to say your tech stack, like your favorite tools in your tech stack, like official favorite tools, it'd be Claude, Make, ChatGPT, would you say?
Yeah, I would say so. Well, and I guess Notion's great.
Notion.
I use Notion for everything.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about that. I haven't used it personally, but I mean, I guess I did for a little while, just testing it out. But yeah, really, I don't think anyone's ever mentioned Claude on the show, David. So I think we got a couple new ones mentioned.
I've played with it, but yeah, I don't think anybody's mentioned it here on the show before.
Really, really good. We actually use it a lot for hiring. So for Cherry Assistant, we'll put in like our transcripts from an interview that we do with a potential VA and their resume in, and then we'll give a job description in, and then we'll be like, hey, rate this candidate based off of 1 to 5 based on these factors. It does an amazing job.
That's really
Wow.
interesting.
Well, thank you, technology. I love how, like, with AI, you can always, like, you talk to someone else and it's like they all find different ways. People find different ways to, like, make use of it. That's kind of one of those examples. But DJ, I guess, we have time for some post-topic questions. So, I'm kind of curious if you could go back into a time when you first came into, the question that we ask all the guests is the industry. So I don't know, what industry you'd say you're in, since you're in so many industries, but I guess we'll just say if you could go back into a time when you first became an entrepreneur, I guess freshman college year, what is the number one piece of advice you might give yourself?
I guess if I were going back to freshman year me, I would say don't raise money and don't outsource as much as possible, at least in the beginning. So we raised a lot of money and we spent a lot of it on building like the application, yada, yada. But I think really to start, you can validate and get money in without spending a lot of money, right? Like you can make an MVP or a prototype or whatever you're trying to build. I think at least, especially now, really, really, really low cost. Like you can create a high fidelity Figma, for example, that someone could interact with, that could pretty much look like a mobile app or a website or whatever you're trying to make. And you can get LOIs or pre-orders or pre-sales, and there's just so many tools for you to get revenue in without, really spending more than, let's say a couple $100. I would say that's probably the most important part. And if you can't at least get pre-sales or make some revenue without spending, a ton of money, I would say you probably either don't have product market fit or a product worth selling. And I think that's kind of like where a lot of people get stuck on, especially I did in freshman year of college.
Yeah.
I think I answered the question similarly way back when, Jesse, when you asked me, because I remember saying something about getting to revenue as quickly as possible, and not worrying about product and developing features and all that stuff, and just getting to revenue as quick as possible. Even if it's just for one little feature, you can always add more features and expand. But getting to revenue is always a very important point. So I like that, DJ.
Yeah, I think people get hung up on like you got to spend money to make money line, but I think especially starting out, it's not true, and I think that really applies when you're trying to scale an existing revenue generating business. But to get the first dollar, I think should be pretty cost effective.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great advice. Well, thank you for sharing that. Hopefully, the right person hears it. And going off that, are there any lessons you've learned along the way from, past companies or your current, role with Cherry Assistant that you think everyone should know?
Yeah, I would say, and this is probably more for like operators or founders or people who want to be operators. Just I think the most important thing or like kind of insight that I've gotten is, what gets measured gets managed. Especially my first startup that I did, like we weren't measuring anything. We weren't measuring ROAS. We weren't measuring, like productivity of engineers. We weren't measuring anything, and that kind of leads you to just bleed money until you're out. And I think working at a startup incubator like Nerve Analytics, where everything was data driven and everything was measured to a T, you kind of realize how important like KPIs is, OKRs, or whatever your kind of like terminology for measuring metrics are, and measuring the right ones too. Right? I think there's a lot that people measure that probably aren't needed, but I would say for creating business, managing a business, operating, I think that's probably the most insightful kind of like idiom that I've gotten to know.
It's
a great one. Thank you. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, definitely. Manage your analytics and your data and your KPIs.
Yeah.
So no, it's definitely a good one. And so I guess sort of finally, DJ, like what secrets or tips and tricks can you share that will prepare all of us for the future of data in advertising from your perspective?
I would say looking at everything as data that you couldn't before is it would be kind of my trick. So I think with AI, like you have now the opportunity to turn everything into data, right? And it doesn't have to be the data that you're analyzing, but it could be something that you feed into AI, right? Like if you don't know how to read a analytics chart, you can take a screenshot of your Google Analytics, put it into GPT and say, hey, what does this mean? Tell me what this insight is. And same thing with the workflow that I mentioned earlier, where we have AI now responding to people through ads. Like turning things into data for AI to read is probably the biggest leverage for you in, I think the future of advertising. And that's something that wasn't possible before. And that's at least what I'm doubling down on this year.
That's really smart. Turning
Yeah.
everything into data.
Yeah.
It's like a slogan.
Yep.
Everything can be data now.
Yeah.
Everything is data. It's true. Well, off of that, in closing, DJ, would you like to tell listeners how they could find you or just any last plug about what you're doing now with Cherry Assistant before we go?
Yeah, I think if for anyone who is looking to scale their business, you can find me at Cherry Assistant. We hire amazing virtual assistants. Jessie has one from us that's helping her scale just her business at Reviting. We also have just a bunch of other businesses in our holding company, like a design and development agency. If you are looking for a new website, look at Los Angeles Design. We make amazing websites that combine the aesthetics of, I think what you would find in Los Angeles in like the culture of Los Angeles, combined with the kind of like sophisticated tech of, let's say, like Boston or San Francisco. And you can find me on LinkedIn at Dongju or on Twitter on the same username.
Very cool. And see, if you talk to DJ long enough, you'll learn more things that he's doing. It's like definitely a multi-passionate entrepreneur.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, DJ. We appreciate you joining us on the show today, and we'll let Jessie close it out.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you. And audience members, before we go, we invite you to get powered by BDEX. I'm going to go ahead and pull a QR code up really quick. If you're not watching on video and you're hearing this on podcast later on, just go to bdex.com and click the talk to an expert button. But basically just, we were talking about AI and data, but imagine harnessing the power of AI to create your audiences. Like DJ said, everything is data. Your audience, your first party data, that is obviously your data. So take that and use AI to craft your audiences that truly resonate with your audience and find that product market fit. So, you're not spinning your wheels too long like we were talking about earlier. But you want to make sure your marketing is hitting the mark every time and that the audience isn't the reason it's not. So let's bring you closer to your marketing goals. We're eager to guide you. Just simply visit beatx.com and click the Talk to an Expert button. But also for those curious about the Deconstructing Data podcast, we'd love to talk to you about it and what we're doing here and the audience that we're getting in front of. So just reach out to us at info@beatx.com, as well as if you know any other guests that you think would be good for the show, just email that over to info@beatx.com. And, send your qualitative data to us so we can make this show better for you. And thanks again, DJ, for joining us. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Bye-bye.